to the LNUR line, a podcast for LEGO Train fans. This is episode 9, and we're going to be talking about LEGO Train Clubs this week. We're going to introduce our members and then our guests first. So we introduce myself, Richard, Matt, our usual podcast producer.
Hello.
Andrew, our podcast runner.
Hello.
Henry.
Hello.
Levi.
Hello there.
Will.
Hello.
And Chris.
Oh, yeah.
And we also have 3 guests from around the world. We have Nikolai Nissen from the Todd Clonson Train Group in Denmark.
Hi, guys.
We have Erwin Jacobs of the Lowlands LEGO Train Club.
Hello.
And Tony Sava from the Texas Brick Railroad.
Howdy.
Okay, so let's move on to LEGO Train news first. And we have, of course, Octrainber, which I think Matt's going to talk about.
Yes, so Octrainber has been extended, so it will have finished by the time this podcast actually goes out to the public, but it was extended past the original October deadline, which I think has been common in most of previous years, I think, by about a week. I think they've actually given it slightly longer this time. And as people may have already been aware, Octrainber this year is actually about dioramas, so they've actually got different categories, whether it's, I think it's 1 or 2, up to 6, and then beyond 6 for physical entries, and then there's just an all-round digital group of various sizes. And I think out of LNUR, I'm the only one who's participated this year, or at least submitted an entry, and some of the entries are looking quite good.
They certainly do. Did any LNUR members or any of the guests here do a Octrainber entry?
I've started one, but it took way too much work, so it's still I've got about 4 of something finished, so it's not going to make it. It's the thing with the moving car. It took way too much work.
I'm the same. I started a Venticular Railway build up a mountainside, and then that's about as far as it's getting, I think. I'll link some photos up. Tony, did you enter this year?
I'm personal friends with the judges, and so I decided to not do that. Just to stay on the up and up. But I did consider entering my my little motorized miniature railway, but I decided against it.
I saw someone making a great version of it.
There's been some really good entries, which maybe we'll cover in a future podcast once the entries have shut. But I think, Will, didn't you build something as well, or did you not actually get started on that?
I made a very rough start and then decided I don't like deadlines. The active knowledge of a deadline made me less motivated to do it, and I just went, I'm building something I wouldn't have built if it wasn't for this competition, and I'm not that invested.
Fair enough. Okay, also in LEGO Train news, we've got the recent release of the Trix Bricks injection molded 32 stud long straights, and Levi is going to talk us through that one.
Yes, so Trix Bricks have recently released a 10-pack of double straight track. It's injection molded, so it looked quite similar to the official LEGO stuff. They're selling it at €23 for the 10-pack, which is about £20.
Yeah, about 20.
And they've also released 3 new ballast plates, one for the left switch and right switch, and then one for the triple switch in R104 radius.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, we have HA Bricks and news of new stock of their wheels and axles as well, which Matt's going to cover for us.
Okay, so aside from the missing package, which we'll discuss in episode 8, when it gets published, HA Bricks have now published their listings for ball bearing wheel sets and axles and wheels. So there's 5 items in this category: a bulk pack of axles, which is a pack of 50, a bulk pack of wheels, which is a pack of 100. So obviously between the bulk packs of wheels and axles, you can actually make 50 wheel sets. They also do individual Technic bricks for bearings, which come in a 6-pack, a 6-pack of wheels and axles, so you can actually combine the two for 6 sets of wheels and axles, And they also do a pre-assembled pack of ball bearing wheel sets, which is a pack of 4, which comes in as a very reasonable €14.
Okay, great. I think they're going to be pretty handy. Do you have any plans for what you're building with them?
At the moment, no. I have ordered a pack of 100 and a pack of 50. A lot of that is just as general stock because my hoard of official Lego train wheels is now severely depleted. I think I've got about 7 left. So primarily the first thing I'm going to wheel up is the 506 EMU, which Jamie designed. So the bodies are actually done. I'll just need the bogies now and the underframe detail, and then they can get shipped off to him.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. So that's all the Lego train news we have this month.
Can I just point out something about the double length track?
Yes, go on then.
Did you say it was about £20 when you did the exchange rate, give or take?
Ish, yeah.
Yeah, if you wanted the same amount from the official Lego, have to spend 3 lots of £16. You'd also get a bunch of flex track and curve track that nobody wants. So it's quite the bargain.
Thanks, Professor Maths.
Now they just need to do it in 9-volt, and we're talking proper track.
Okay, so we will move on to a Lego Ideas roundup from Will. So we'll pass over to Will.
All right, my last-minute Lego Ideas roundup. So the first one we're starting off with is a bit unusual and not perhaps I aimed at our target audience, but I think it's quite neat. It's called Train Bookends, and it's exactly what it is. It's got a locomotive coming out the tunnel at one end and a coach going into the tunnel at the other. They have some form of interior. I don't know how much interior, but they've certainly got enough space for a driver and some passengers in the coach and removable roofs. And it's just a very charming set of bookends that you could put on your shelf if you happen to be a train fan. Looking at the rails, they look weird. I'm not sure whether they've used real Lego rails or not, but you never know. So that is...
I think it looks like they have, and they've tiled over them.
Yeah, it's possible. It's just, I think they've used them in a colour that they don't exist in, because those look very metallic. But, so they currently have 6,982 supporting, so it's not doing badly. 665 days left, and the designer is somebody called Jimmy DK. Next one is a bit more our normal speed. This is titled The East Gate, and is inspired, I believe, by... trying to see if it looks like it's inspired by something German, if I'm brutally honest. But it's basically a big German Victorian-era style station, complete with a very old-fashioned looking locomotive, which charitably could be called Chibi. It's quite fun, but it's not particularly realistic. But the building itself looks absolutely spectacular. It's a through station, arched roof with a clock tower building on one side, and it just looks very nice indeed. That has 1,030 supporters, 590 days to go, and is done by somebody called Bricky Brick. The next one is somewhat more modern design. It's the BART Bay Area Rapid Transport 50th anniversary train set. So somebody has clearly been inspired by the Crocodile and is using the exact same concept of track and panel for a thing, but it's got a BART train set, which I believe is an American Transit train set, which has a very interesting and satisfying shape. I'm not sure they've captured it quite right, but I like what they've done nonetheless. And it would make a very interesting and different Lego train. That currently has 1,749 supporters, 240 days left, and is designed by somebody called Blue to Green 21st. Next, we have the 2019 Disneyland Mark IV Monorail 60th Anniversary Edition. To me, this is the Transport Tycoon monorail. I realise that's because they completely copied the Disneyland one, but it looks brilliant. I have a sneaking suspicion it will never go around a curve, but for as capturing the prototype, it looks fantastic. It's this very sleek, red, black and white monorail, double-ended monorail with blue windows. And yeah, it's just a really nice recreation of a shape that a lot of people will find quite familiar. Definitely won't go around a bend to save its life, unfortunately. But yeah, it's very, very nice build. That's currently got 1,388 supporters and 100 days left, so we perhaps need to give that one a push. And it is designed by somebody called Bricks in Space. And finally, we have the Maintenance of Way set of 4 permanent way vehicles, which, according to the description, it has a tie crane, which moves new and used ties around. I presume that means sleepers. A pin puller, which removes the pins holding the tracks in place. So I don't remember what they call those, but they're not called pins on the British Railways. Tie puller, which removes old ties and replaces the new ones. So again, sleepers. And a tamper, which on the railway that I work on, the tamper's main job is to destroy all the S&T equipment. But according to this, it is there to bed in the ballast. I will tell the permanent way department of our company that's what tampers are supposed to do, because as far as I can tell, they just dump ballast on the side of the track and destroy all our second equipment. But yes, it's a very interesting, unusual looking set of railway equipment, and would look quite nice in anybody's yard. And that has 571 supporters, 245 days left, and designed by P. Fairhead.
I think that's a really nice one. I'd like to see something like that get through.
Yeah, I think of the 4, I've actually picked 4 relatively popular and well publicized ones. This 5, apart from that one, relatively popular and well publicized ones this time. And I think that one's the one that definitely won't make it. Unfortunately, it's a bit too niche.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Will. And we're going to move on to our main topic, which is Lego Train Clubs now, and we'll give our guests a bit of a chance to introduce themselves. So, starting with Mr. Tony Sava, would you like to tell us a little bit about how you got into the Lego train hobby, and also what made you join a Lego Train Club as well, Tony?
Well, my name is Tony Sava. I live in League City, Texas. I joined LugNet back in 2000 and joined TechSlug, which is the general Texas Lego group, not train specific, back in 2003. And I got into trains about 2006. It was kind of a two-pronged push into trains. I mean, I've always loved trains. I had model trains when I was in younger man, but I used to be into Castle. I was one of the administrators of ClassicCastle.com. I helped found that website and that community, and I built this big castle. And I went and displayed that around Texas, and it took about 3 hours to set up just this one castle, and it kind of burned me out on castles to begin with. I kind of went into a kind of a dark age for a short time, and then my wife one day said, I think it'd be kind of cool to have a Polar Express to display around Christmas, and so I blame her because what she wanted was this little display, a little static thing, and I decided to build a fully articulated, completely track-compatible motorized Polar Express. So I did that, and I started getting really heavy into trains, Lego train specific, after that, and it got to the point where we were starting to talk ballast and track and standards and track clearance, and the general Lego club just didn't really have any interest in that, and we decided, Steve Jackson and Ed Chang and I decided that maybe it's time to kind of dedicate a train club for Texas. So we kind of split off and allowed the general Lego club to enjoy general Lego things and not have to worry about our needs, and we could come up with our own standards, and we still display with them. We'll do joint displays, whatever, but this way we can kind of keep our needs out of their hair.
Yep, I think that's fair. Thanks, Tony. And on to you, Erwin. So how did you get involved in the Lego train hobby, and what made you join a Lego train club?
Well, I've been interested in Lego trains for about as long as I've been interested in Lego. So since I was 6, which has been almost 17 years now. About around 2012, I found the Dutch Lego Loler. I found them online and I decided to join them. I was wondering what it was all about, and I was interested in doing more collaborative displays instead of just being me with my builds. And I found a couple of like-minded people, and we set up a standard over there. That's where we introduced mills and Lego trains. We did a couple of displays, and in 2016, I found some other people on Lego World in Utrecht, a large semi-international event. And we got talking. We decided that we wanted to move ourselves more towards a more skill-oriented system. So we chose 1 to 45 as a skill and went from there. And we're currently in the process of maybe splitting off the same way Tony did with the LLMTC, the Lowlands Lego Model Train Club. And yeah, that's where that's the state we're in currently. And we're still looking if we want to fully split off from Lowlug or just stay as a group functioning under their flag.
Okay, thanks, Owen. I think that's interesting. I think it does sound like a lot of the Lego Train Clubs did start as part of a subgroup within a Lego Train Club, within a Lego user group even. And I think particularly if you're exhibiting Lego model railways, there is quite a lot to take into account in terms of standards and transporting models.
Yep.
So I think it makes sense to sort of splinter off and create a Lego Train Club from that view. And there's plenty of Lego user groups over here in the UK, and I think we're the only particularly active one, active Lego Train Club anyway, in the UK at the moment.
It's actually there's more depth to it, but with us actually there are at least one other group who also does trains. They primarily build 6 wide, more Lego, more city style orientated. But we decided we wanted to go for the really realistic stuff. Yeah,
but I think I suppose that's another thing that a Lego Train Club could be good for if there are multiples, is a sort of variation in styles in build. I would expect a lot of Lego user groups who run shows, they have displays with Lego City trains or Lego City style trains, which might be mocks, running with a line of Lego modular buildings and some other Lego sets. And I think that's okay, but it's not what we set out to do with LNUR. And I think a lot of train clubs like Texas Brick Railroad have also gone to fully custom scenery, fully custom cityscapes and things like that. And it is another layer of impressive, I would say. Great, thanks, Owen. Nikolai, would you like to introduce how you got into the Lego train hobby and how you ended up as a member of a Lego Train Club as well?
Yeah, so in terms of the Lego train hobby in general, I got my first Lego train set from my dad when I was 5 years old for Christmas, and that's kind of where it started. So since then, I got more and more train sets for my birthday and for Christmas. And then when I turned 13 years old, I signed up for the Danish Arlog Byggepladen, which in English means kind of like the Lego base plate, where I showed off my trains and got a lot of response and constructive criticism. And then a couple of years later, there was this subgroup created called Togklassen, which means the train brick in English. And this is the log I'm representing right now. The purpose of that log was to be able to participate in exhibitions for model train clubs, because the log that I was a part of, Byggepladen, wasn't allowed to participate in model train exhibitions since it's a Lego, club and not a model train club. So Togklassen was created to getting us able to participate in exhibitions for model trains, and this is where I am now and who I'm representing today.
Great, thank you, Nikolai. So I think we can open up discussion to our members and all of the guests as well now. So should we start with an obvious one, which is what is a Lego Train Club and how is it different from a Lego user group, if it is different at all? Because I think it sort of depends on the Lego Train Club and also on local Lego user groups and what they do. So as a Lego Train Club, for example, LNUR doesn't actually organize any shows. We just attend them and run trains, which is a lot of fun. Would anyone else like to contribute to that?
I could toe the company line and read you what's on the homepage of our website.
Yeah,
'Cause we actually
let's do that.
All right. So on our website, we are a group of Lego fans who are also rail fans. Our goals are to share our ideas and skills with other people and the other Lego train fans around the world, to bring high quality interactive layouts to both train shows and Lego events as a group or in collaboration with other clubs, and to improve the quality, quantity, and visibility of Lego model railroading throughout the great nation of Texas and beyond.
I think that's fairly similar to ours. So the aims of LNUR, from our website, because I can't remember them, are to promote the Lego train hobby to adults and children in the UK, to provide a foundation to bring adult Lego fans together to collaborate on Lego locomotive models and landscapes for Lego railways, and to build and display Lego railway displays at Lego shows and model railway shows. I think there's a lot of overlap in purpose there, I suppose.
No, I think the same goes for our group as well. We don't have a written out mission statement yet, also because we're still in the quite literally the baby shoes. But our main goal is, as far as how I interpret it to be, is mainly to just build stuff and make coherent, nice displays. And our intentions are as well to eventually display not only at Lego events but model train events as well. And with same as you guys said, with just a luck, that won't be possible. So you need a Lego Train Club to do that.
I would argue the LNUR actually is somewhat different from most train clubs, in that we were more a reaction to the fact that there was a lot of disparate people who liked trains but didn't really have the resources to display on their own, and we've kind of just clubbed together. We're not as strictly ruled as most other clubs are. Like most, you look like the obvious ones are like the Australians and the Americans with their fantastic, massive, organized layouts, and everybody builds the exact same scale. And we've never achieved that, or never really tried to achieve that. It's more, I mean, I feel like when we're at our best, we are a nice, pretty shelf to display everyone's individual talents, whereas most groups are, here is the group's railway.
Oh, we've got you fooled. We did a really good job of fooling you guys.
I say the only consistent layout we have is the playout, which is consistently here's some city stuff for the kids to play with.
My club, we have multiple scales and multiple, we allow people to run in 6 wide and 8 wide and 10 wide and whatever. The only thing we require is battery operation, just because we don't own enough 9-volt track to cover the layout, and we use the bigger radius curves.
I think the larger radius curves are definitely something most clubs use, and we do it. Actually, even the playout has some larger radius curves now, doesn't it?
We've just started experimenting with them. It's a case of adapting the work that Matt's already done to make it match more with what we've already got on the tighter radius curves, and also probably rethink how modular it is, because I think it'd be easier just to have it ready to set up rather than, oh look, here's some nice modular track we're gonna have to build from scratch.
Yeah, we're mostly just building. The only hard rule we have on our layouts is main lines should be at least at least radius 104, and try to stick to 145 for your trains and scenery directly next to the track.
I think that's reasonably common amongst groups as well.
Yeah, we try to promote communication with the person your module is going to be right next to make sure everything flows together nicely. And as far as I'm concerned, that's going quite well. When you're looking at pictures, it's not really always that easy to see where one person's module ends and the other one starts.
That's a good level of consistency between them. And I think that is potentially one downside to modular building, is different builders do have different styles. and it can be quite easy to detect. I suppose it depends on the style of the railway you want to go for as well. Some people quite like the almost Fremo style. One modular is a sandy desert, and the next one is a lush valley full of trees or something like that. Okay, so why? The next question is, why would you join a Lego Train Club? What are the benefits? From an LNUR perspective, I suppose Will picked up a little bit on it earlier in that our members are quite spread out across the country, whereas a lot of the other Lego user groups in the UK are geographically specific. So there's one in Scotland, there's one that covers the northeast of England, the rest of the north. There's one that covers London, and there's one that covers Bristol as well as Brickish, which is the sort of UK-wide group. So we just attract Lego train living weirdos, I would say, from around the UK.
Around the world, we've got at least one in America now.
Oh yeah, we also have Trace, who is our token American member, who really likes British locos. Hi, Trace. Why do you think, or what do you think are the individual benefits to joining your own Lego train clubs?
For us, it's kind of the same reason in Denmark, that people or AFOLs in general are very widespread geographically. Then when you look at the segment who build Lego trains, they're even more spread out. So we got the benefits of being able to create bigger layouts, but also via our forum inspire each other and give each other like constructive criticism and improvements, which is something I've used a lot.
What about you, Tony?
Well, for us, TechSlug, when it was originally founded, covered the entire state of Texas, and they have since split into 4 kind of chapters because you're talking about a 5-hour, 6-hour drive between cities in some cases, and so Texas Brick Railroad covers the entire state of Texas and allows us to collaborate. The train guys with the non-train guys, and the train guys can get together whenever we want to or can. For a personal reason, my Lego room is too small for my own layout, so the only time I get to play with Lego trains is when we actually do a public display.
Oh, I know that pain.
I think that's the reason a lot of members join the kind of right to run on the LNUR displays at shows. Is a pretty important one, because Lego trains do take up a huge amount of space. At least if you do them to the standards that are in the plans in our brain, I suppose. But anybody else have? I thought somebody was wanting to speak there.
I was just questioning if you actually have a plan. I don't have plans. I just build.
There are lots of plans and many half-built models and quarter-built models, which may make it into a show at some point. But without shows running here in the UK at the moment, there's not actually a lot of so it's not a lot of reason for me to build. I like to have a deadline and think I need to get this model done before a certain show.
All of Carter's builds are a quarter finished.
Yep. The problem with the LNUR is basically Carter comes up with an idea, builds it to almost exactly 50% and loses interest, and then we have to finish it off.
That is pretty much how it works, yeah. I do all the hard work because I have the excellent idea to start with. That's how it works.
And then we have to make that idea actually work, yes.
And he knows some soft touch will come along and finish it for him.
We'll just slap him around the head and go, that's not how you Lego.
So I think Will maybe touched on this a little bit before, but there are, one reason to join a Lego Train Club is that there are some standards in building in most of them. And I think, Nikolai, your lug has its own standard, doesn't it? The Moduverse standard.
Well, sort of. So it's been a hot topic in our group to discuss standards, because we are some people who want the whole club to be unified in one standard, but we also have a couple of people who wants to just build on regular burst plates. And that's a bit of a challenge sometimes. Because I personally think the Moduverse system is the best way to build a bigger layout, and there are multiple people who built in this standard, but we've tried to compromise. So there's been built these like conversion modules from normal base plates to Multiverse, so we're still able to put our displays together, even though there's a difference of almost 2 bricks in height.
Yeah, I think that is the problem with any standards, particularly new members coming in haven't necessarily built to a particular standard, and maybe trying to integrate it is quite a lot of hard work. But it certainly looks like a nice system, and it's widely used by Scandinavian Lego user groups. Is that right? So it's not just the Danish guys, but I think it's also cropping up in sort of Swedish groups and others.
Yeah, the system is actually originally from a Finnish log, so it's not our system, but it was members from our group who made instructions and started using it in bigger layouts.
Mm-hmm. Tony, do Texas Brick Railroad build to the mill standard or anything similar like that, or do you have your own sort of internal standards for getting everything looking fairly cohesive as a layout when it's together?
Well, we only require that your track be ballasted. We have several members that are interested in mills, and we have started implementing that a little bit in our cities. We're trying to do some brick-built roads, but we have so much already dedicated to the track, ballasted track on base plate and that sort of thing, that right now we're looking at a huge investment in trying to get into mills if we wanted to go 100%. So right now we're kind of splitting the difference and doing mills where we have the roads and the areas where we want to have a little bit of leeway when it comes to things underneath base plates or underneath the road surface. And then everywhere else we're kind of sticking with base plates, just plain base plates.
Okay, it sounds like a sensible mix. I think we have discussed standards in a previous podcast episode, and mills does seem quite popular for Lego trains, but it is quite parts intensive as well. If you think about the typical size of layouts that you're building in Lego railways, because you want enough space for really long trains to run, and they do just take up hundreds and hundreds of parts, and for no real scenic gain, although it does make things a lot easier to set up.
Mills has a very good benefit if you do not have infrastructure. If you have to borrow a venue table or a set series of venue tables, or you're buying tables or bringing tables from home and everyone brings different tables, the mills does allow, because it's more rigid, allows you to have a much smoother roadbed for your trains.
Yep.
Texas Brick Railroad invested in custom tables a while ago, and I have a chunk of them, and a couple other members have them. The people who can bring them, but they're designed to be the exact same, dimensions of Lego base plates, and they're very easy to level, and they're completely flat. So that benefit from mills doesn't help us any, because our tracks are already laying on a flat level surface.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no, of course. I'd argue that there is actually quite a bit of a landscaping benefit to mills or Moduverse for that matter, because it really allows you to put on different levels. You don't need a custom table to get just a small ditch in, for example, a ditch or something. And actually, we're kind of steering away with our group from mills. We're working on more. Tim Gold did a example back in 2011 of something, and we are trying to adapt that to mills height, so you can get something that's quite popular with the castle builders, that you get loose islands with a connecting road, or in our case, then a connecting train track.
And I think that leads on to a question we've had from Matt in the podcast chat, which is, for displays as a club, do you have custom tables, or do you use some tables which are provided by the venue you're displaying in, or pre-bought tables from shops that you just set up on the day? How does that work for each of your clubs?
We are currently using the tables provided by the venue, but we are looking into building our own tables, because those tables tend to be really bad. They jump up and
Yeah,
down by
they
a couple of
are really
centimeters. And we're also looking into making it possible to make tables lower or higher more easily. And having all your tables the same height, it allows more freedom in that way. And we want to get them to base plate size, a bit like how the Germans are doing stuff as well right now.
Yeah, for like I said, our club has custom tables. As a contrast, GF Lug, the Greater Florida club, they have invested in those 6-foot plastic folding tables, and they choose to buy the same brand and the same model. I think they get it from Walmart, but they do nothing but that. And when the table becomes warped or whatever, they're so cheap they just buy another one. And their layout is absolutely gigantic.
Yeah, I think that's fairly common. We know that tables in a lot of venues are terrible, and they do tend to have a bit of a lip around the edge of each of them. So if you're lying or trying to lay a flat railway around the tables, they're pretty terrible usually. So I think we're slowly moving towards our own tables with adjustable legs, but that takes time and money and patience and all of those things.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
It's been a question that has actually cropped up in the chat, but also something that has been pretty much the heart of the LNUR since I joined. Do everybody who join your club come in with a mindset of, I'm building trains, or do you actually manage to attract people who are scenically minded? And for the clubs that have got big scenic layouts already, were those scenically minded people, were they train-minded people who moved into scenery, or do you just get really lucky and have people who think of both? Because I know in the LNUR, we all join the LNUR because, like, I like trains. I'm building some trains, and here's some people who build trains. Attracting people who may be interested in trains but want to build scenery has so far proved utterly impossible. So it's a case of asking people to make the hard decision to go into the even more expensive, even less train-based scenic side of it.
We've got actually quite lucky in that case. We have a couple of people, including me, who really like to build landscapes. And as far as I know, we've got one or two others who really like to do elaborate landscapes. But we've also got a couple of them who, they don't mind it, but they prefer building only trains. Or at least make the landscapes really, really train infested with loads of track and, that. Buildings, lots of stuff like that. But we don't have dedicated people who only build trains or only build landscape.
Yeah, and in our club, it's pretty much the same. That we have a lot of people who build trains and landscape and are really good at that. And then there's me. I only build trains, but that's mostly because I'm still pretty new to the hobby, and as you mentioned, it's very costly to build layouts and scenery. But for us, we're just lucky that there are a lot of members who likes to build scenery, so that's not something that we're needing.
For Texas Brick Railroad, we have several members who are they like trains, they own Lego train sets, but they just kind of bring infrastructure. And then we have other members who are kind of I mentioned we have the Tex Lug and the Texas Brick Railroad. They're kind of dual, so they swap between the different clubs when it comes to displays if they have time. And then you have people like me who build both trains and scenery, and I kind of go back and forth. We have Ed Chang, who is a fantastic train builder, and he builds in fantastic buildings as well. But he's stolen thunder as the steam guy, and so he builds steam engines, and I kind of feel bad for myself, and I build some scenery, and then I start building another steam engine, and I feel better. But
that sounds a lot like my building technique. But we for the playout at least, I started really realizing that if I was going to wait for members of the LNUR to offer scenery, I could be waiting a while. So I actually started asking a couple of members of my local lug, Brick Alley, Unfortunately, again, this coronavirus has got in the way of that, because our original plan was to just start building some buildings for the playout and see what happens, and we actually settled upon a sort of very unformalized modular system, so we could I provide the railway and they provide the buildings in the middle. But that's great for a city style layout that will entertain the kids and has plenty of spaces to hide their favorite superheroes. But it's never really going to be the answer for a sort of model railway standard Lego layout that we'd like to have, and that we do have when it's not falling outside of a van.
So that does lead to another question, which I don't think we've asked yet, which is about the transportation of layouts.
I asked that.
You did.
Thank you.
So how do your groups transport layouts? Does it tend to be members in individual cars, or do you hire a van or a trailer?
For Texas Brick Railroad, we have one member in Austin, middle of the state, that has a trailer, but he can't make all the shows. So typically, it's everyone brings their own stuff in their own vehicle. Only on a big show, or if we're going to go to a big event like one of the big conventions, we'll rent a trailer, and typically I pull it because I have the pickup truck that can pull a trailer. But yeah, for the most part, it's everything's packed up in boxes or bins and loaded up into our own cars, and we bring what we have. And only occasionally do we kind of carpool or visit each other's houses to pick up extra stuff, depending on the size of the show.
When I last did a large show, that was last year in October, I had so much stuff with me. I had actually stacks of layout plates on the passenger seat in the car. So, and as it's currently looking, I'm going to build bigger and bigger. So for the next shows, I need to rent a fan or something. And the same goes for every other member of our group. And that's without our own tables. So I guess when we're starting to do actual tables, we'll need to rent a fan and a trailer for the tables. And yeah, transport is definitely an issue, and it's only getting worse. And I think it goes for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I think we've tried a couple of things. We've tried transporting it in really useful boxes, which works to a point, but it does involve a lot of setup when you get to the venue. We've tried transporting it in modules on boards in a special box in the back of a van, and that was meant to cut. No, that was meant to cut down display time, setup time, and it didn't really. So we're still looking for the ideal solution there. Nikolai, how about your club? Do you just transport your models in a box in the back of a car?
Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah, but, for those who have bigger layouts, they usually fold down the seats in the back and then gently put in their cardboard boxes filled with modules and landscape. But it's becoming an issue for us as well, with needing space for layouts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think space is, especially if you're limited just to a car and a certain number of boxes, providing a large display is pretty hard work. You have to get a bit ingenious with how everything's stacked. We have another question, and I think this one was from Matt, which is, how do you handle different locomotives and stock on the layout? So we've talked about how some builders in LEGO Train Clubs have different styles of building locomotives, or they build to different scales. So how does your club deal with that? Do you just let everybody run whatever they want, or do you try and time it so trains of a certain style or certain scale run together so they look sort of more correct, I suppose, or more realistic relatively?
For Texas Brick Railroad, we you bring it, we let you run it, basically. We have some members who only, we have some younger members, they only have like a locomotive, and they'll borrow our rolling stock. And we have a variety of rolling stock. It's both 8 wide and 6 wide. And we don't really have too many rules as far as, if you're running a steam engine, you can't be running a modern locomotive next to it or whatever. We're pretty open.
I think that's quite a common, just no rules and run whatever you like. Erwin, sorry, you were trying to say something.
Yeah, I was saying kind of the same. We try to balance out proper prototypical trains with just picking a 1930s steam engine and chugging an intermodal container train behind it, or placing that kind of odd combinations. But we try to balance it out, and we prefer to build stuff that actually looks like something that can be done. And I've got an argument ready for everyone who's trying to argue with me. And I read it once from Tony's Flickr page, and he says he regarded his models as a heritage railroad. And every time anyone starts arguing with me about that doesn't happen in real life, I just fire back at them with, "We're a museum. This is a museum line. Fight me."
I think that's fair, and it's rule number one of running a model railway, isn't it? Rule number one is you can run whatever you like because it's your railway.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, and actually, we'd rather have we have a very weird assortment of sort of experimental and weird locos like the APT, which was quite an early tilting high-speed passenger train, which never really made it into production in the UK, and we run that with steam locomotives and all of the weird and wonderful things that members build, and that seems to work okay most of the time. Some of it looks a little bit weird together.
Still think the best train we ever had was my 7 wide A3, Isaac's 6 wide A3, all of my 7 wide coaches, several underground coaches, and several 6 wide coaches on a massive train at the end of the last children's show.
That's very
Really impressive. The only thing more impressive was how annoyed Pete was at how unprototypical it was.
If I can brag on one of my club mates,
Please do.
Ed Chang, I mentioned before, he has built the Princess train.
Oh, I love
By that I don't mean like I've seen trains for royalty in England and Europe. This is a Disney Princess train that is pink and blue and pastel and is populated with all the Disney Princess Friends figs. It is gorgeous eyesore that and what's funny is, I mean, if you look, you can look up on my Flickr, there's photos of it, and on his Flickr as well. But it is our most popular and most reliable train. When we have a derailment, especially a spectacular one, it's going to have to take some repair, we have a saying in our club, "Princess train to the rescue," because he'll fire that thing up and it just runs. And the children, especially the girls, I mean, we've never had the kind of interest in our displays with the girls as much as when the Princess train is running. And even the boys, because he's got some, he got other references in there, but there it is. Yeah. It is spectacularly wrong, and it works so well.
I love it.
It's really cool.
I've always been a massive fan of that train. I really would like to do something similar for the playout, because one thing that's I've noticed with the playout is the kids want to be engaged. All you have to do is engage them, and if that means running a Disney train instead of your incredibly detailed grey locomotive from 1939, then so be it. And if you run the trains that the kids are interested in, if you run the Princess train, the kids will love it. Like, even just putting a few superheroes on your otherwise very detailed layout will increase the interest as far as the kids are concerned. It's like, I don't, especially with a Lego display, I don't think it matters what you run. I personally like to run a locomotive that goes with its wagons or coaches, but if that's run next to the Princess train or Death Star train or whatever, I don't care. I just want to run things that interest me and that interest the punters.
As long as there's no underground trains, of course.
Yeah, definitely no underground trains.
I've had it once. I was talking to someone, I think, doesn't matter who, and I turned around to look back at the layout, and while I wasn't looking, someone decided to sort all the trains on color. So we had two sides. On one side were all the red trains, on one side were all the yellow trains, and there is a picture with that shows a line of 6 or 7 locomotives from different layouts from that event, all on one layout, on one line, all just red locomotives. And yeah, stuff like that doesn't happen in real life, and that's why it's looking so funny, because you're not looking. Yeah, you can do stuff like that. You can't put an HO scale train on an O scale train layout, but with Lego you can, because everybody works with the same track. It looks odd, but it can work.
Yes, yeah, that's true. We are largely restricted by the track. A sort of follow-up question to the one we had before about mixing different types of stock. Does your Lego Train Club have any rules on running official Lego sets on display? So usually LNUR displays, with the exception of the playout, tend to be mock locomotives, mock rolling stock only, except we have run, when the latest blue and yellow passenger train came out, that came out just before a Lego show in Manchester a couple of years ago, and we had one running around the loop, which I think is interesting for the kids because it's nice to see the latest Lego train that's been released, which they've probably seen in catalogs and might be getting for Christmas. But your clubs have rules about it must be mock only, or it must not be a set, essentially.
We have we like that idea, running the most recent train set. We try to do that. We don't have any rule about it. We do like to do that. And we have several members that have official Lego trains that they've expanded. One of our members has the Emerald Knight. He has, I think, 9 coaches, the matching coaches that go with it. And so he likes to run that when he can. And we let him whenever, no restriction there. The only rule we only have is if we go to conventions where other AFOLs are, we try to limit as few as possible Lego train sets or even Lego sets on our displays, just because the AFOLs have already seen those.
Yeah, that's true. And I suppose, we find we're often not the only Lego Railway on display at shows, and other, say, builders from Lego user groups rather than the Lego Train Club might have some of the Lego train sets running around some custom modulars they've built or something like that. So I think it can be nice to run some train sets, and I still collect the train sets, even though they haven't put doors in carriages for quite a few years. But there's maybe room for them on other displays, and I think it's a good idea to be conscious of not wanting to duplicate what other people have on displays. And what a Lego Train Club offers is probably different to what a Lego user group offers in a sort of city setup or a Lego Railway type display. Okay. So Chris does. Oh, sorry, Owen. Did you want to? Come on,
I'd argue indeed against sets for the simple reason that you're a Lego Train Club. Your thing should be I forgot how to pronounce the word. Your thing should be your builds. And if you're announcing I'm a Lego train builder, but you're not showing your own builds, then there's going something at least weird. I'd ask questions. The same way that if I for example, someone promotes itself as a Technic builder and he only shows sets, I would start asking questions as well. There's a standard set around a couple of really good, well-executed modular buildings. I can live with that more easily than a train group who only has sets or preferably shows a lot of sets. But that's my personal opinion.
I think Nikolai was wanting to speak there as well, perhaps.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. But in the Danish club, we haven't made any rules about it, but I think it's kind of like an unwritten rule that, of course, we show our mocks because that's way more interesting, and I really agree with your argument, Erwin. But it also happened one time that someone brought the Maersk engine, the blue diesel loco, to an exhibition in Elsinore in Denmark. There was this local newspaper who did an article about the whole exhibition, and then on the front cover, the headline said something about adults making custom Lego trains, but the big picture was of the blue Maersk engine. So that kind of like fell down to the earth. And I think that was a discussion point we briefly talked about after, where we agreed that maybe we should be more aware of not displaying too many bought logos.
Okay, thanks, Nikolai. Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with that. I think most of the time I'd rather we ran custom models, and particularly in Britain, there's quite a range of British locomotive designs that we can use and run, and are quite recognisable to the public who are into their trains. I think that's quite an interesting angle on it, and it shows people what can be done with Lego bricks as well. I think some people, particularly when we took the display to a model railway display the other year, people were pretty amazed with what was achievable with Lego bricks, because it isn't just the 2x4 brick and a 2x2 brick anymore. There's a lot more variety in parts and colours available as well, so you can get closer prototypes of the models and try and build as close as you can to those. Okay, so I think Chris did have a question, which we're all dreading, I'm sure, if Chris is still awake.
The power. No, steam or diesel? Better.
How did I know what that question was going to be?
Neither. Electric.
You forget, Chris, you're asking a European what type of power they like. Of course they're going to say electric.
Sorry, I meant out of the lesser two, which is better, diesel or steam?
Well, steam, obviously.
Gas.
Steam is the most enjoyable to build because you have to use a lot of brain power to make a steam engine look right, whereas a diesel is a sort of box, and an electric is a box with a thing sticking out of it.
Well, I used to think that diesels were just big ugly boxes, but I've come to the realization that, you know, building between steam and diesel, steam is about function before form, and diesel is about form before function. And, you know, when you build a diesel engine, there are details you have to get right because it's going to be obvious that it's wrong. In a steam engine, you can fudge some things because you're just going to have to, to make things work, to make things move the way they need to, you're going to have to cut some corners. That isn't to say that you can't put all the detail you need to put into a steam engine. And I personally enjoy building steam engines more than diesel, but I have to acquiesce that they both have their challenges.
Yeah.
Stop being diplomatic and pick one.
If I had to pick one of those two, I'd go for diesel.
Yay!
Because I prefer to. It's not a hard rule, but it's a rule of thumb for me, and that is I only do one train in one color, and then the color is blocked. And with steam, especially in Europe, and really especially in the Netherlands, you can build one black tube with red wheels, and then you're done. The rest, they're all just the same black tube with red wheels, slightly different, but they're the same. Well, with for at least the Netherlands and Western Europe, you can, especially if you go electric or diesel, you can pick loads of different colors. You can get almost any weird color and go nuts with it. And especially if you start including EMUs and DMUs, you can, yeah. So I prefer diesel in that sense. I've got one steam engine on the working bench, mainly because I want to give a shot at the valve gear stuff, and I had the red wheels already, so I thought, why not? But I think I'll take another 3 years to finish it, just because I don't really like working on it.
Just a quick question for Erwin. Are you going to add into your layout now a train on top of a whale tail?
No.
Oh.
I understand the question. I won't. Maybe some other builder from my local whale. But
I really
we
hope
are
they
planning to do actually some kind of overpass multi-level working train station. That's all I can say on that for now. But as far as I know, it doesn't really fit within the things we're wanting to build. Not as in we won't be able to incorporate it, but it doesn't fit our style. The station in question is a quite modern, basically just two platforms on a viaduct, and that's not what we're going for with our stations.
Mm-hmm.
But we might make an homage to it in a different kind of way. So
please,
I won't say
do.
no, but it's not something we actually actively trying to work on. So who knows what will happen.
And for any listeners, we'll try and put a link to the news article about the recent Dutch train crash, which was caught by a whale tail sculpture.
Yeah.
I
try
just
and
like
link
to ask,
the description.
how much money do they have that they can afford to build a station and a storage siding on a bridge that doesn't go anywhere?
Well, it's Rotterdam, so no one really knows. But they got a big port.
The first rule of building a railway is if you don't have to build a bridge, don't build a bridge.
I mean, it looks silly doing the very last bit, dropping it down to the ground just for the storage bit.
Well, it is officially called a metro, so it might be something to do with going through a dense urban area, and especially that bit of the Netherlands is quite wet. The ground, it's probably under sea level, so building a tunnel there is a quite literal nightmare because it will flop permanently. So probably it is a combination of it looks cool and it's quite easy to get the trains. It's more easy to get trains over somewhere than underneath. And looking, I haven't really read into it too much, but yeah, when you're building your train over water or something like that, you won't have to deal with people coming onto the tracks.
True.
They just want to keep the rail fans away.
Yeah, that's also.
You know what keeps the rail fans away? Boring metros with no variety of stock.
Yeah.
I feel attacked.
Sorry, how many grunts was it now?
It's 8.
Okay, so I think our final question for the group in this chat about Lego Train Clubs is, and this goes to the guests first because I think our members have discussed this many times before. But do you have any particular favourite Lego Club railway or railroad displays which aren't your own?
For me, I would probably have to say I have 2. I like GF Lug, the Greater Florida Lug. They have a display of downtown Tampa, Tampa, Florida, which is absolutely just incredibly huge, and it's got visual interest. It's tall. It's got short buildings. They have street signs with named streets. I mean, it's very, very impressive. Also, they run 6 wide, so point against them for that. And then Penlug and their display. We have teamed up with them at conventions before. Penlug has a very great real world. The words are escaping me. Running the trains like real trains with switch yard and everything, and they have the big grand curves, and they don't use the R120s or the R104s. They're using the full R256 or whatever grand curves throughout the layouts, and they have their big roundhouse and everything, and it's very impressive.
It is a very cool layout. It's definitely worth a look, and we'll I'm sure we'll put a link into the description on the podcast as well for that one. Erwin, do you have a particular favorite layout?
Yeah, I had to Google the correct names. The first one is, aside from Penlug's one, but I think they got enough praise already. The Noppenbahner, the German guys, they built some really interesting stuff. I really like their idea of different modules, and I'm really interested to see where that will go, and I want to join them one day, maybe. May it be for one show. And one really specific one is I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Ararat 1972 by Tim Gold and Mike Pianta. It's a layout from 2011, and they just completely broke all the rules. They completely ditched the grid. Their layout was quite small.
Oh, yes.
I really love it. The complete scenery, the fact that they just decided we're gonna do stuff at angles as one of the first people to incorporate it into a train layout properly, and the large curve with ballasted track, and I just love every bit of the layout. And even though it's almost 10 years old now, I still can look at it and still find new details, and it's
aged very well. That
detailing is a bit crude for nowadays standards, but still, it's insanely good. I love it.
It is, yeah. It's a really nice layout, and I think they're Australian builders, aren't they?
Yeah, they are Australian. I've read the story on the Brothers Brick. They live 1,800 kilometers apart, about 1,000 miles. So one of them had to fly in and put everything into its suitcase to get it over there into Melbourne.
Dedication.
Yeah, it's dedication on a whole nother level. And reading that, I still want to visit an American event one day and maybe participate in the LGMS layouts. With a bit of layout, it will take quickly, but that might be a couple of years away. Read at least 5. But I really love Ararat. It's amazing. And I'm sorry for every Australian and proper English-speaking country. I probably completely wrecked that pronunciation of that word, but yeah. I try to be better than Louis van Gaal in my English, but sometimes it's hard.
To be fair, us English are pretty good at ruining it too.
Yeah.
This is true. Nikolai, do you have a particular favourite layout from another club that you've seen and really inspired you?
Yeah, I do. So my favorite layout, I couldn't find a picture of the final version, but it's called Swebrick collaborative layout. It's from the Swedish Arlag. It was a couple of guys who built a Moduverse layout where they used a lot of snot to build the roads. So it was a road technique I haven't seen before, and it was so detailed in general with real Swedish signals and ballast and overhead wires in the Swedish design, and lots of details. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there are some really fantastic. Oh yes, Nikolai's just posted a link. Wow, yeah, the curved road is really nice on that. It's a nice technique. Quite an impressive mountain as well. Excellent. Okay, do we have any more questions for the guests on the topic of Lego Train Club or anything like that?
I have a question.
No, everybody's very quiet.
Oh, Millet.
Okay.
Millet had a question.
Yeah, we normally ignore him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we usually ignore him. It's only Chris. He's usually got very silly questions.
No, it's a serious question.
Okay, so with that in mind, we'll bring the podcast to an end. So thanks to our guests, Nikolai, Erwin, and Tony, for joining us. And thanks also to members Matt, who's our producer, Andrew, who's been our podcast runner, pasting useful links and things into the chat while we've been talking, Henry, Levi, Will, and Chris. And we'll see you for the next podcast very soon. Thanks for listening.